Coco Martin!
So good day everyone, I'm Kadit Pagutayaw. Now I'm going to talk about the first world, second world, and the third world, and where these terms originally came from. First, let's talk about the first world. During the Cold War, the first world referred to the Western capitalist countries, especially the United States and its allies. They follow the capitalist economic system and were on the western side of the Cold War. In the simple words, sila ang grupo nga kauban sa United States. And next is Second World. This referred to the Soviet Union and its allies. They were on the opposite side of the Western countries and they followed a communist or socialist system. So basically, sila ang kabilang side sa US during the Cold War. And now, let's talk about the Third World. These terms originally referred to the countries that were not aligned with either the first group or the second world. They did not officially choose either or major side, meaning wala sila ni decide sa either US group or sa Soviet Union group. After the Cold War ended, Second World category become less relevant because the Soviet Union and the old political division changed. However, the terms First World and the Third World continued to be used. Mauna, bisan naman na ang Cold War, these terms stayed in the public mind. So the main idea of this slide is the First World, Second World, and the Third World. Originally described political groups during the Cold War. Later, people started using the First World to describe developed and wealthy countries, while Third World become associated with poor or developing countries. And that's all for my slide.
So the term third world countries was originally used to refer to countries that did not align with the first world or second world during the Cold War. However, over time it became associated with poor or developing countries, while the first world became associated with wealthy and industrialized countries. However, the term third world is now considered outdated because not all countries described this way have the same situation. Some may be poor while others have more stable and stronger economies. It is not good to generalize them all because they differ in income, development, and living conditions. Example, Botswana and Rwanda can both be classified as developing countries, but their economic situations are very different. Botswana has a higher average income per person than Rwanda. Therefore, it is not accurate to put them in the same category as if they have the same economic situation.
Nowadays, social scientists sort countries and into groups based on their special levels of economic productivity. Countries are grouped by economic productivity. So this means countries are divided into groups based on how strong their economy is. Example, a country with a strong economy and high income is usually considered more developed. They use the gross domestic product GDP. So gross domestic product means the total value of goods and services produced inside a country. For example, if a country produces cars, food, clothes, and provides services, the total value of this is part of its GDP, gross domestic product, which measures the total output of a country, and the gross national income. Gross national income is measures that total income earned by the people and businesses of a country including income from other countries. Like gross national income is how much income the people and businesses earn. A new and simpler classification, North-South. North-South classification is a simpler way of groupings countries into two major group, Global North and Global South. So it is based mainly on economic development and income, not simply on whether a country is geographical north or south. From the word global north is the global north generally refers to richer and more developed countries. For example, United States, Canada, Western European countries, developed part of Asia. While the global south includes the Caribbean, Latin America, South America, Africa, and parts of Asia. Global South is the Global South is generally refers to developing countries, many of which have lower average income and face more economic challenges. For example, Caribbean countries, Latin America, South America, Africa, or part of Asia. And the difference of global north and global south is the global north is richer, more developed, while the global south is developing lower average income. That's all, everyone.
The identification of interest networks. This means that there are different groups in society that have economic and political interests, such as business, companies and business owners, technocrats, experts who use technical knowledge to help manage the economy and government. Also, military, people involved in national defense and security, and middle class, people who have a moderate level of income and economic influences. These groups can influence local politics and economic decisions because their interests are connected to the large global economy. Example, a large company may influence government decision because it provides job, investment, and taxes. Understand world system theory. Wallerstein explained the world economy by diving countries into different levels based on their economic power and position in global trade. There are three categories: core, semi-periphery, and periphery. The core countries are the wealthier and more economically powerful countries. They usually have advanced technology, strong industries, large company, skilled workers, and greater financial resources. They have a strong position in the global economy. Example, countries such as the United States, Germany, and Japan are commonly discussed as a core economics, and the resources from different parts of the world can enter the global economic system and eventually become a product, technology, and wealth. Example, raw materials may come from developing countries while advanced companies wealthier countries process them into higher value products. Middle income countries are considered the semi-periphery. Semi-periphery countries are countries that are in between the core and power peripheral countries. They have some industries, technology, economic development, connection with wealth countries, but they are not as economically powerful like core. Core is a richer and more powerful. Semi-periphery is a middle position, and the periphery is a poorer and more dependent. In Wallerstein model, poor nations tend to have few resources to export to rich countries. This means poorer countries may have limited valuable resources of or products that they can sell internationally. They may depend on export raw materials or agricultural products. Example, a developing country may export agricultural products or raw materials but earn less compared with countries that sell advanced technology and manufactured products. Poor countries are also more likely to lack industrial capacity. Industrial capacity means the ability of country to produce manufactured goods using factories, technologies, equipment, and Poor countries may not have enough technology to produce certain products themselves. Because of this, they may need to import manufactured products from richer countries. Unequal trade patterns to lead poor nations owing lots of money. Poor nations
That's
or
all.
become poorer.
Thank you.
Good day everyone. I'm Cadet Jacosta and I will discuss about modernization theory, dependency theory, and colonialism. Just as modernization theory has its critics, so does dependency theory. This means that dependency theory is also not accepted by everyone, just like modernization theory had people who questioned its ideas. Dependency theory also has critics who believe that it cannot explain everything about why some countries are poor and others are rich. Not all economists and scholars agree with dependency theory. They believe that other factors can affect country development, such as government, education, technology, culture, and natural resources. For example, two countries may have both experience foreign influence, but one becomes more economically successful than the other. This shows that colonial or foreign relationships alone cannot explain everything. Country getting richer does not mean other countries are getting poorer. This means that global wealth is not necessarily a fixed amount. If one country becomes richer, it does not automatically mean that another country loses money. In other words, two countries can become richer at the same time through trade, technology, investments, education, and economic growth. For example, imagine the Philippines and Japan. If Japan develops a new technology and sells product to the Philippines, Japan earns money while the Philippines also benefits through access to better technology, jobs, and useful products. So Japan becoming richer does not automatically mean that the Philippines become poorer. Colonialism certainly left scars, but it is not enough on its own to explain today's economic disparities. So this means that colonialism had a major negative impact on many countries. It caused exploitation, loss of resources, political problems, and unequal economic systems. However, colonialism is not the only reason why some countries are rich while others are poor today. Other factors include government and leadership, education, corruption, technology, natural resources, infrastructure, economic policies, and political stability. Therefore, colonialism is part of the explanation, but it is not enough to explain everything by itself. For example, two countries may have experienced colonialism but have very different economic situation today. One may have developed better education, industries, and infrastructure, while the other may have struggled with political instability and weak institutions. Some of the poorest countries in Africa, like Ethiopia, were never colonized and had very little contact with richer nations. This example is used to challenge dependency theory. Dependency theory often argues that poor countries become poor partly because they were exploited or made dependent on richer countries. However, Ethiopia is an important example because it largely avoided formal European colonization, yet it has still experienced poverty and developed challenges. Therefore, this suggests that colonialism alone cannot explain why a country is poor. Example, think of two students in a classroom. Student A received unfair treatment from others, while student B did not. However, both students may still have difficulties getting high grades. We cannot simply say that unfair treatment is the only reason they are struggling. We also need to consider their studies habit, resources, teachers, environment, and other factors. Similarly, when studying a country's poverty, we need to consider many factors, not colonialism alone. And and that would be all for my report. And thank you for listening.